People always ask me, what is my favorite coffee? That's actually a really difficult thing to say because there's so many great coffees made every year that you really just can't pick one. However, if you were to ask me what my favorite coffee drink is, it would have to be the Americano. The Americano is about simplicity. Just 2 ingredients, espresso and water. Simple, but not easy. Over the years, I found that the more simple the product, the more difficult to make it exceptional. Everything must be perfect. The coffee must be well sourced, well roasted, and well blended. But that's not all. It must then be properly handled, ground, dosed, temped, and finally brewed at the right temperature, with the right quantity, at the correct pressure, and for just the right amount of time. Then there's the water. Too hard, terrible. Too soft, terrible. pH is off, terrible. Too cool, sour. Not properly heated, stale. Considering the number of variables that need to be controlled for a drink with only 2 ingredients, it's a wonder I bother at all. The Americano comes from the Italian derivative Caffè Americano. There was American soldiers in Italy during World War II who kept asking for coffee but didn't like the focused bitterness of an espresso. So they had the Italian baristas make their espresso diluted with water, more like what we consider regular coffee in the United States. However, author Somerset Maugham's protagonist in his 1928 novel Ashendon, or the British Agent, orders an Americano while in Naples during World War I. Being released well over a decade before America's entry into World War II, it does call into question the veracity of the popular claim. However it started, the Americano spread in popularity. You can order Americano today practically everywhere on the planet, from Jakarta to Paris to Rio and Tokyo. You can even get it in Melbourne, though they get a little bit sticky when you call it Americano. Australians like to insist that it's called the long black and theirs is superior. Though I suspect that's more due to an inferiority complex than anything else. But Australians aren't the only ones that don't want to call this concoction of espresso and water an Americano. In 2016, during an intergovernmental meeting in Moscow in which then Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev jokingly noted that calling this drink an Americano was unpatriotic, to which Armenian Prime Minister Karen Karapetyan replied, "Call it a Rossiano." Because of this, a cafe in Moscow called Lisya Nora added the Rossiano to their menu. However, they offered it at a price much cheaper than an Americano, causing me to wonder just how patriotic they could be if they're willing to price their own drink below that of the Pindosi. Before that, in 2014, a cafe in the Crimean capital of Simferopol rebranded the Americano due to U.S. criticism of Russia's annexation of the peninsula, calling it Krimsky, which is probably equivalent to the utterly ridiculous 2003 renaming of French fries to Freedom Fries in the United States following France's refusal to join the invasion of Iraq, a nation which was later demonstrated as never having the weapons of mass destruction that we invaded them over. Still, the Crimean War of Words was on, with more coffee shops changing the name of the Americano and even vending machines to the Rossiano. So what is this deceptively simple drink of espresso and water that seems to cause such great consternation from all corners of the globe? As I said before, it's simply espresso with water, but the way you go about putting it together makes all the difference. I've heard a number of people make the argument that the difference between the Aussie Long Black and the Americano is the way you make it. That, my friends, is bunk. They are the same no matter how you make it. Then there's the question of whether or not you float the espresso on top. The answer? Absolutely. To my mind, an Americano must feature the crema from the espresso floating on top of the drink. Why? Because it tells you, the drinker, just how well that Americano was made. Is the crema dark and intact? Then it was done properly. Are there holes? Is the crema blonde in color? If so, then you have a lesser version. Even if you want it with milk and sugar, a truly skilled barista will have mixed the correct amount of each in the water before floating the espresso, making for a seamless experience. My favorite way is to have it plain. I want to taste all the flavor without any additives. If the coffee is good enough, there will be no need for things like cream and sugar to soften the coffee. Many people will tell you all sorts of superlatives about the Americano, how it's better than other drinks. The reality is that it all depends on the coffee. So much of today's third wave is chasing after extreme brightness and acidity that it just doesn't work. A really tasty Americano is about balance. What I wanted is Americano with a balance of cocoa, a little berry fruit, warm rounded body, just a touch of acidity to make the fruit notes sparkle, and a lingering nutty finish to carry you away. All that comes down to the coffee. How well was it sourced? How well was it crafted? Miss a note and the entire thing is diminished. Get it right, and the Americano sings loudly and proudly, as though you were landing in Triple E. An absolute triumph. This is rare coffee. But Americanos